Good evening and welcome to Wholesome Roots. Today I'm going to share with you how to make Asian style quail. We have quail on our homestead that we have raised ourselves humanely, and they have been raised on non-GMO feed so that we can provide a good meal for our family. So it worked out pretty nice for us where we hatched out some chicks and about half of them ended up being roosters. We love the quail eggs, so we kept all the hens and we harvested our roosters today. Just about to top it off with some more ice, but I wanted to show you this is what we have. They are soaking in ice until we are going to put them into their marinade, and they've been in here keeping nice and cold for a couple of hours now. For our marinade, we're going to use lots of fresh organic garlic and ginger chopped up small. We're also going to use sesame oil and rice vinegar. You can also use rice wine if you have it, or you can use that instead of the vinegar as well. So the first step is to chop up our garlic, ginger. Then we're going to take some Szechuan peppers. We got red and green sent to us from a dear friend, Deb. And we're going to put those into the grinder, grind them up. We're going to add some Thai basil and some fish sauce, liquid aminos, and coconut liquid aminos. And it's going to be very nicely flavored. Can't forget, we're going to add a little bit of this honey. This is a honey garlic ferment. And the honey in that is infused with the flavor of garlic, and it's full of probiotics. So I'm not sure about the amounts of the Szechuan pepper I'm supposed to use, so I just went ahead and just grabbed a spoon of the red and a spoon of the green, and I'm gonna grind it up and I'm gonna use it. And if it's too spicy, next time I'll use less. The reason why I'm using Szechuan pepper seeds like this instead of a Thai pepper or jalapeno or any other type of lovely, wonderful pepper for spice is because of my Hashimoto's autoimmune disease. I can no longer have nightshade family, so peppers are off the list. So my friend was nice enough to do the research and find these, and she knew that they were something safe for me to eat and still get a nice spice in my meal. Oh wow, guys, I cannot even describe. Oh, this smells so good. I am so excited about trying this out. I think it's going to be fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my dry ingredients in here first. Make sure I get all that yummy goodness out of the bottom of there. All right, and then I'm gonna add some Thai basil. So about a spoonful of each of the peppers. And then for the Thai basil, you know, a couple of handfuls crushed. If you have fresh Thai basil, chop up a good amount of it because the fresh goes a lot further. And this is a marinade, so all of the seasoning isn't going to be staying with the flavor of the broth. It's going to be mixed in. So we're gonna put all that ginger. If you don't have fresh ginger and you can't find it at your store, you can use ground ginger. So a couple of teaspoons of ground ginger if you can't have fresh. Lots of garlic. That can also be substituted with ground powdered garlic. Some fish sauce. Just a little bit of fish sauce to give it some umami. About maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon's worth, depending on how much you like that kind of thing. I'm going to use my coconut aminos. Probably about 2 tablespoons of that. Maybe another little bit more because my liquid aminos are about out. So the coconut aminos are a little bit sweeter. The Bragg's liquid aminos are like soy sauce, so they add that same soy sauce like flavor. So they're pretty salty, so I don't have to worry about adding salt. And my rice vinegar. I'm going to add a healthy amount of vinegar. That's going to be the carrier for most of the flavor. So probably anywhere from a half a cup or more. And then my oil. And I just realized I was out of sesame oil, which kind of makes me sad, but that's okay. You can substitute things. So if you don't have rice vinegar, you can use regular vinegar, apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar even if you want to. It's just going to give just a slight advantage to the Asian flavor if you have the right one. So I'm using grapeseed oil. And probably about a quarter cup of that. Don't want too much oil, just enough to help coat things. Give it a good stir. And then I'm going to pour this over the quail and let them soak in all that natural yummy flavoring before I cook them. I want to make sure each of these quail gets a good healthy amount of the big ginger and garlic. So I'm going to spoon over each quail first, and then I'm just going to pour it over the rest. Just to make sure everybody's got a good coating. Each one. So this is going to go in the refrigerator. I'm going to cover it with a lid, put it in the fridge, and let it rest in this marinade for at least a half an hour. The longer, the better. Alright guys, I was going to let this bone broth cool off and put it in the fridge for future use, but I just made a decision. I am making ramen noodles that are safe and healthy for me using my bone broth. Gonna put some grapeseed oil in my cast iron skillet. Turn the heat up to medium and let that get nice and hot. And then I'm going to add my ginger and garlic and saute it till it's just a little bit done. I'm going to add some onion, chopped onion. You can use scallions or leeks or chives or whatever type of onion you have, or you can leave them out even. But I'm going to add those 3 items to the dish and saute them. I always add a pinch of salt when I'm sauteing any onions or mushrooms or anything of that nature, because it helps them release their own juices. I use pink Himalayan salt 90% of the time. Sometimes regular sea salt, and occasionally kosher salt if I'm out of everything. Once your onions become translucent and everything starts to seem like it's getting a little bit cooked down, you can go ahead and add your broth. Your broth doesn't have to be homemade bone broth like mine. It can be chicken stock or beef broth, or half and half makes it even better. So whatever you've used to make your own broth, if you want to use that, or you can use store-bought. My bone broth today is made with a beef shank from a local family farm called Swanson Family Farm. They grow only grass-fed, grass-finished animals. So I can have this beef, even though beef is on my naughty list for being inflammatory, because it's grass-finished and never fed corn. It's not as bad for me as the traditional beef raised and put into the grocery stores from conventional farms. So if you have a source of grass-fed beef, you can use that in your anti-inflammatory diet. Alright, you can see that the garlic and the ginger are starting to brown a little bit, and I do not want them to burn or overcook. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step now. Something I always like to do before moving on to the next step is anytime I've sauteed something in a pan, I like to deglaze the pan, because a little bit of garlic and ginger has all stuck to the bottom of this pan, just a little bit. So using vinegar or wine or beer, any type of alcohol or vinegar, will help you remove all that yummy goodness from the bottom of the pan. Creating a nice, rich flavor for your broth. So I just used a little bit of that nice rice vinegar for that. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my bone broth. I've got almost 2 quarts, a little bit less than 2 quarts. 2 quarts is about the right amount for this soup, but if we need to add any water, we will. I think this will be perfect though. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of the fish sauce. Just a few sprinkles of that, just to add that umami. And I'm going to add my coconut liquid aminos. Just enough to give it some of that nice, yummy flavor. A couple of teaspoons or so. And you see how this is going to complement the quail so nicely with the flavors. So I'm going to let this come up to a simmer, and I'm going to taste test it and see where it's at, see if it needs any salt or cracked black pepper possibly, to give it just a little bit more flavor. But we will let it get nice and hot and steep with the flavors that are with it first. Lots of people would probably use soy sauce in place of the aminos that I'm using in this recipe. Just make sure that you're using organic soy sauce so that it is not GMO soy. That is my one big thing that I try to avoid in all of my dishes, even before my diagnosis, is to avoid any GMOs at all costs. So I have my soup covered and simmering. Meanwhile, my quail are still marinating, getting really rich, full of that flavor of the marinade. I just tasted it and it needed some salt. I added some salt. If you're using a sodium-free broth or a really salty broth, it's really going to depend on your taste buds. For me, I was really wanting this to be a ramen noodle soup, like what I grew up with. You know, the 10-cent pack of ramen noodles. So I added a good bit of salt to it to help it get that real salty ramen-y flavor. I'm going to do something a little different and add some dried shiitake mushrooms to it. That is optional. You can also use fresh ones, but I'm going to add them now so they have a chance to plump up and reabsorb the moisture. Alright, so the broth is tasting really good. I'm going to let it continue simmering. I'm going to go ahead and put my oven on 375. And I'm going to get the quail out of the fridge and put it in the oven, uncovered, for 20 minutes. I cannot wait. The house already smells amazing. It's going to smell even better in just a few minutes. For the soup, I'm not going to add the noodles until the last minute because they take, what, 4 minutes to cook? So 2 to 3 minutes. These are basically, you add them and they're done. So I'm gonna let the soup continue to simmer and get all of those flavors out of the onions and garlic and ginger and just create a really rich broth. Well, I was gonna sear them first in my cast iron skillet, but they look so perfect like this that I'm just gonna go ahead and put them in the oven. I'm just gonna do 2 more things. One is I'm gonna sprinkle some onions for a little extra kick. And plus I had some onions left over from the soup that I didn't want to waste. And onions taste good in everything when they're cooked. I'm not a fan of raw onions as much as when they're cooked. So, perfect little accompaniment to this meal. And then I'm going to add my last secret ingredient. Then to finish it off, I'm going to use some of this fermented honey from the garlic, honey ferment. Just drizzle it over the top to create a nice sugary glaze on the top of these birds as they cook in the oven for 20 minutes. I can't wait, y'all. This just, my belly's growling and I'm just so anxious to put this in my belly. And so now here's where you guys get to be creative and figure out what your third dish is going to be for your veggie. I think that a wonderful green salad with a ginger dressing would be phenomenal. I have run out of time for today to do anything else like making my own homemade ginger dressing. So I've just added a bag of green peas to the soup. That's gonna give us our veggie boost and keep it simple for us tonight. So we're just gonna have a nice bowl of ramen soup with our quail. All right, so we got about 2 minutes left on the timer for our 20-minute timer, and I just looked in there and they look really pink still. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock it up for another 10 minutes. You don't wanna overcook quail and have it be rough and tough. You wanna, but you also don't want it rare either. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on for another 10 minutes because I can tell just by looking at it that it's not quite there. And everybody's oven are different temperatures, so it's really gonna vary according to your oven because they're not all calibrated the same. We know that. Ryan is checking the temperature to make sure it is done. What is the internal temperature of poultry supposed to be?
165.
Are we there?
I don't know yet.
Oh, it was beeping, so I thought that was.
It was beeping because your cheese set.
Oh yeah, my cheese is set for like 90 degrees or something, so it's, at least we know it's over that. All right, we just needed a little bit more time. The temperature was super close. Ryan put it in for 4 more minutes, and there we are, perfectly cooked quail. Oh, I cannot wait. It looks so delicious. Look at that, y'all. Perfect. I cannot wait. I'm gonna go ahead and add our noodles to our broth, and our soup will be ready in 3 minutes and we will dine. And the soup came out perfect, just perfect, along with the quail. Perfect dinner. So one of the best ways to serve this soup is to take some of the noodles out, place them in your bowl, and then ladle over with the broth and the veggies, which is what I have done here, along with a nice serving of quail. I'm going to put some of the juices from the pan over that quail to incorporate all of the flavors of the dish perfectly. I hope you all enjoy this recipe. I hope you give it a try, and remember, come back again for some more great recipes that are safe for autoimmune issues and very tasty for your mouth. Thank you for watching Wholesome Roots. Please like, share, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time on Wholesome Roots.